Selected parts from the book One Life is Not Enough. Part 42. K.R. Narayanan's term as president ended in 2002 and presidential elections came up once more. Sonia had asked Dr. Manmohan Singh and me to keep an eye on the fast moving developments related to the election. We met President Narayanan, who said that he was not sure if he would seek a second term. A little while later, he changed his mind and said that he would contest if the National Democratic Alliance NDA put forward PC Alexander as their candidate. While his lack of clarity was disconcerting, he nevertheless had the full backing of the Congress president. It was Alexander who was the front runner. A good man and an outstanding civil servant, he was also ambitious. In his autobiography, Through the Corridors of Power, Alexander writes that he did not seek the presidency but was invited by the NDA to take up the job. This, to say the least, was disingenuous. Actually, in his pursuit of the presidential chair, Alexander displayed an extraordinary lack of political judgment. He became the NDA's candidate and took the Congress support for granted. Two issues need clarification. Why the NDA was opposed to Narayanan and why the Congress did not support Alexander. I was in close touch with Brajesh Mishra, who at the time was Principal Private Secretary to the Prime Minister and National Security Advisor. He gave several reasons why the NDA did not support Narayanan, chief among which was Narayanan's poor health. In addition, Narayanan had refused to go on a state visit to the Philippines but had no objection going to Sweden, where his daughter was the ambassador. He also refused to meet Indonesian President Megawati Sukarnoputri on 2nd April 2002. These incidents, Brajesh Mishra claimed, were a dereliction of duty. Sonia had nothing personal against Alexander. After all, he had served under her mother-in-law for over 3 years. The objection was political. How could the Congress party support the NDA candidate? The second reason was that both President Narayanan and Alexander hailed from Kerala. One Keralite president could not succeed another. Other states too had to be considered. Events were moving fast. The Congress president met Prime Minister Vajpayee at 7 Racecourse Road on 19th May. She confirmed that the Congress supported Narayanan. The Prime Minister told her that the NDA was unable to agree to a second term for Narayanan. President Narayanan returned to Delhi on 22nd May after undergoing Ayurvedic treatment at Ooty. On 28th May, the Congress president called on him to renew her support for a second term. 2 days later, Prime Minister Vajpayee met the president and told him that the NDA was not in favor of his continuing for another 5 years. In his autobiography, Alexander holds me responsible for denying him the presidential chair. He also takes several swipes at Brajesh Mishra. He writes, at this stage, a totally unforeseen development took place, which contained all the ingredients of a palace plot. The sudden projection of Vice President Krishnakant as a candidate for the presidential election. The principal characters behind this new move were Natwar Singh and, most unexpectedly, Brajesh Mishra, Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister. It did not behove a man of Alexander's experience and stature to make such a preposterous observation. It was no secret that Chandrababu Naidu was supporting Krishnakant. Krishnakant had been governor of Andhra Pradesh and was on intimate terms with Naidu. Alexander further stated in his book that Brajesh and I colluded to keep him out without the knowledge of our political leaders. Throughout his narrative, he relentlessly hammered out on this theme. Natwar and Brajesh were hell bent on eliminating him from the race, but we were only following instructions. Alexander even quoted India Today, which had carried a story that the following deal had been made: Krishnakant for president and Natwar Singh for vice president. No one bought that story because it was pure fiction. To suggest that both of us were working on our own against Alexander is too outlandish. This was out of character. Normally, he conducted himself with dignified restraint. We all have our bad days. At a crucial time in his life, Alexander was not fortune's favorite. President Narayanan's dithering did not help matters. Finally, he was persuaded to opt out. A three-line statement was issued from Rashtrapati Bhavan. There have been recent media reports suggesting that President K.R. Narayanan may be the candidate for the presidential election of 2002. This is to clarify that he is not a candidate. It took much time to draft these three lines. The draftsmen were distinguished political pundits from the right and the left. The Congress declared support for Vice President Krishnakant. It was now evident that Alexander's chances had receded. The crucial day was 8th June 2002. Brajesh telephoned me in the forenoon asking me to meet him in his office in South Block. He informed me that the NDA also supported Vice President Krishnakant. In my presence, he telephoned Vajpayee ji. Natwar is here and has confirmed the Congress support for Krishnakant ji. Brajesh told me that the NDA's official decision to support the Vice President would be taken at a lunch that was being hosted by the Prime Minister. The others attending the lunch would be L.K. Advani, Jaswant Singh, George Fernandez, and Pramod Mahajan. In the evening, the Prime Minister and the Congress President would meet the Vice President to convey their decision. I informed Sonia about this. Krishnakant was already aware of this decision through Chandrababu Naidu. At about 3 pm, Brajesh asked me to see him urgently. When I met him, he said that the Prime Minister had not succeeded in convincing his lunch guests to opt for the Vice President. PC Alexander was back in the reckoning. I told Brajesh that I would immediately convey what he had told me to the Congress President, but I was certain that she would not change her mind about Alexander. When Krishnakant learnt that the NDA had abandoned him, he was devastated. Unfortunately, he died of a heart attack. Within a few minutes of his death, Sonia and I arrived at his residence. The saddest sight was his 104-year-old mother sitting with her son's head on her lap. Then suddenly, APJ Abdul Kalam's name began doing the rounds. Kalam, who was not even considered a dark horse, finally made it to Rashtrapati Bhavan. He did not seek the office sought him. Before APJ Abdul Kalam took his oath as President, Pramod Mahajan, Minister of Parliamentary Affairs, called on him. He requested Dr. Kalam to get one or two closed collar suits and modify his hairstyle. Dr. Kalam agreed to the course, but the hairstyle was non negotiable. Thank you for listening. While his lack of clarity was disconcerting, he nevertheless had the full backing of the Congress party. Disconcerting, Disconcerting. Disconcerting means making someone feel uncertain and uncomfortable and worried. In his autobiography, Through the Corridors of Power, Alexander writes that he did not seek the presidency but was invited by the NDA to take up the job. This, to say the least, was disingenuous. Disingenuous. Disingenuous means not candid or sincere, not speaking the complete truth. Narayanan had refused to go on a state visit to the Philippines but had no objection going to Sweden, where his daughter was the ambassador. He also refused to meet Indonesian President Megawati Sukarnoputri. These incidents, Brajesh Mishra claimed, were a dereliction of duty. Dereliction, dereliction of duty means deliberate failure in doing one's duty. It did not behove a man of Alexander's experience and stature to make such a preposterous observation. Behove, B-E-H-O-V-E, behove means it is appropriate or suitable. President Narayanan's dithering did not help matters. D-I-T-H-E-R, dither means be indecisive. Dither means hesitate, waver. Then suddenly APJ Abdul Kalam's name began doing the rounds. Kalam, who was not even considered a dark horse, finally made it to Rashtrapati Bhavan. Dark horse means an unexpected winner. Thank you very much.